Can everybody see my screen? I guess so. Okay, let's begin. Welcome to the PGWP walkthrough workshop. And today we're going to talk about what post-graduation work permit is, and we will also do an application together. So before we dive right into the topic, I'd like to say you may be aware that immigration regulations and policies may change from time to time without prior notice. So this information is correct as of today when I reviewed the slides I prepared. And I'd encourage you to always bookmark and go back to IRCC's government official website for the most up-to-date information on this topic. Post-graduation work permit, or in short, we call it PGWP. It is an open work permit that allows you to stay and work anywhere in Canada for a specific amount of time after completing a qualifying program at a designated learning institution. Now, Durham College is a DLI, and we do provide a range of PGWP eligible programs. So you will have the chance to apply for a post-graduation work permit and gain some work experience following your studies here. And many people would be interested in learning how long will their PGWP be, and it ties directly to the program length. Now, for example, if you have graduated from a program, maybe that's 2 semesters long or 3 semesters long, 2 semester or 3 semester, they are considered a 1 academic year. So your PGWP usually matches the length of the program. So if you graduated from a 1-year program, you can expect to receive a PGWP that's up to 1 year. And if you have graduated from a program that's 2 years in length or even longer, for example, you graduated from an early childhood education program that has 4 semesters, that's considered 2 academic years. Or maybe you have graduated from computer programming and analysis, that's a 3-year advanced diploma program. It has 6 semesters. Now, in those programs, if you meet all the eligibility criteria for PGWP, then you can expect to receive a work permit that's up to 3 years. And pretty much 3 years is the maximum amount of time you can receive on this work permit. Now, some students, they have completed 2 1-year programs. For example, they maybe started with a, let's say, PSW program, and then later they have completed another 1-year program, which is also eligible for post-graduation work permit. If they can complete both programs within 3 years with no big gap in between, and they meet other eligibility criteria, for example, have you been studying full-time in every semester? Have you been progressing nicely when you're studying these programs? Then, and also, is each program eligible for a PGWP? Does each have a eligible CIP code? Then if you meet all of those, you're also eligible for a 3-year post-graduation work permit. So that's about the length of this permit. Now, here are a few important notes. Many students want to apply for the post-graduation work permit after they finish their studies here. And naturally, they would want to know, when can I apply then? So typically, you have up to 180 days. That's 6 months. From you graduated to apply for a PGWP. However, as most of you would like to apply from within Canada, then you need to remember you must apply while your study permit is still valid. In other words, you should apply for a PGWP as soon as you have everything. So your study permit becomes invalid either on the expiry date. Now, if you're currently in your final semester, then your study permit should have November 30th, 2026 as the expiry date. Your study permit becomes invalid either on the expiry date or 90 days after you receive your graduation letter, whichever happens first. What does that mean? For example, I have students who were accepted into a 3-year program, and maybe their study permit expires in, let's say, July 2027. However, they transferred from the 3-year program to the 2-year version. So now they're finishing in this August. In that case, their study permit becomes invalid on the expiry date or 90 days after receiving graduation confirmation, whichever occurs first. It will not be valid really until a date next year, so far away. So remember that. And if you find that confusing, remember, you just need to submit your application as soon as you have everything. Don't wait. Now, from Durham College, you would need 2 documents for you to apply for your PGWP. One is your official final transcript. The other is your graduation letter, program completion letter. Now, at Durham College, we call it verification of graduation. You can request both documents on MyDC. But on your graduation letter, it must have either approved, not yet awarded, or certificate awarded as the status, because either of the 2 status can confirm your graduation. Now, you're in your final semester right now. You've just finished your studies, right? Last day of classes. If you have already applied to graduate, then currently your graduation letter should have the status applied under review. Now, don't use this letter for PGWP because this letter with that applied under review cannot confirm your graduation yet. So you need to wait. Let's continue. What are documents I need for my PGWP application? The good news is that it's not a study permit application. So you're not required to provide financial proof. I know many people are, struggled with financial proof. What do I include? But this is not for this application. With every application with IRCC, you would need a application form. In this case, we're using IMM 5710 form. I will show you how you can access the form later. From Durham College, you need your verification of graduation letter with the correct status and official final transcript. You will provide a copy of your passport, and you will scan all the copies that has your information and maybe has a stamp or any markings. Combine them together. This is your passport. Provide a digital photo, letter of explanation. I strongly recommend everybody include a letter of explanation. I will explain later why I encourage you to add this letter. Biometrics is if applicable. Now, if you previously applied to come to Canada as a visitor or as a student, you would already have your biometrics done, most likely. And the biometrics is fingerprints and a photo, and they're good for 10 years. And you also probably need a medical exam, depending on, most likely depending on the job you're entering into. And we'll talk about it in detail here. Now, who needs a medical exam? Basically, a medical exam is usually good for 12 months. If you previously have a medical exam done with a panel physician, and it's within 12 months, that you can still use the same proof. Now, but you don't have a medical exam and you intend to work in certain jobs. For example, I have ECE graduates here. If you are going to work with young children, you're going to work with patients or the elderly. Now, you have to get your medical cleared, okay? Because we want to make sure when you are working with sort of vulnerable people, then we need to make sure everything is cleared. So if you're not sure, you can always reach out and confirm with our team, or you get one anyway. In that case, there will be no restriction on your work permit. Okay, so how do you get a medical exam? Can I get one from the campus health and wellness center? No, not everybody can give you a medical exam. It has to be a panel physician that works directly with IRCC. So what you will do is then you search IRCC panel physician. You will find a web page and you will choose the one that's physically closest to you. I know if you live in the Durham region, there are maybe 2 clinics in Ajax that provide this service. And what happens is that you will book an appointment with them, letting them know it is for your IRCC immigration application, and they know what to do. You go to your appointment on the same day, you will receive a digital information printout sheet. And it is the digital information printout sheet you will need to upload with your PGWP application. You don't need to wait for the result because the result itself will be sent by your panel physician to IRCC directly. And this medical exam is not covered by your health insurance, so you do need to prepare to pay out of your own pocket. All right. Now, what else do I need? If you probably by now, everybody should be aware that many things have changed, and including the PGWP application. So you are now required to provide proof of your language proficiency. Now you can either do the accepted tests to prove your English or to prove your French ability. And you will see when you are in the application portal on the document checklist, there will be a section that's called Proof of Language Proficiency. That is where you will upload your language result. If you haven't booked your test yet, you have to book it today, okay? So because a language test result is good for 2 years, and you want to make sure you do it early and not wait for your test when you already have everything else. Now, here's a little bit more information on the language proficiency test. You have to demonstrate your ability in each category: reading, writing, listening, speaking. Now, I came to Canada, I also went to school here and I did my IELTS test back then. I can say that I feel writing is something that I need to work on more to achieve a higher score. So I would recommend you spend some time, each of you, to maybe do some mock tests to see where you're comfortable with, where you need to find a few more tips. If you are booking the IELTS test, just to remember, for the PGWP application purpose, you're only required to take the IELTS general training test, which is easier than the academic version, okay? Now, if you graduated from a college program, for example, a certificate program, a graduate certificate program, a diploma program, or an advanced diploma program, then the minimum language you need to prove that you have met the CLB 5 for your level. CLB 5 means Canadian Language Benchmark, and on the IRCC webpage, it will show you CLB 5. If you take IELTS General, it means for listening, what score? It means for reading, what score? So you can see the details on the website. And like I said, it's good for 2 years. If you haven't booked it yet, book it today. Now, what else do I need? So those who applied for a study permit on or after November 1st, 2024, you also need to graduate from a program that has an eligible CIP code. In other words, you need to show that you have graduated from a program that's eligible for a PGWP. Okay? Now, how you can prove that? So let's take an example. When did you start your ECE program? Okay. So for those who maybe started a program in September 2024, for example, then you must have applied for your study permit before November the 1st. Otherwise, you wouldn't be starting your program in September, right? For those who submitted your application for a study permit before that date, then you are the old rules. Basically, you are eligible for PGWP with whatever program you've been studying with us. But we're at this point now that many of you actually maybe applied for a study permit after November the 1st. For you guys, you will need to provide proof that I am studying and I have graduated from an eligible program. And how you do that is you can write a letter of explanation. That goes back to where I said I strongly recommend everybody include a letter of explanation. Now, some students may want to use this letter to talk about why I used 5 semesters to complete a 4-semester program. Or if there's anything else that you want to proactively explain to IRCC, you can always include that information in the letter of explanation. Keep it concise and to the point. Don't write a 4-page letter. That's too much information. Keep your letters 1 page, most ideally. If you have a lot more information to explain, then maybe 2 pages maximum, okay? You can always start your letter with, Dear IRCC, then the first paragraph is who you are, like your name, your passport number, your student number at Durham College, and the program maybe you have just recently graduated from. And the second paragraph is where you can explain the situation or the issue or the problem you want to you want to proactively explain to IRCC. And the third paragraph is you conclude your letter with, thank them for their time to review your application. And if they have any questions, they can reach out to you. Okay. Now, for those who don't have anything else to explain to IRCC, they just want to show I'm eligible for a PGWP. How can I make you understand? You can write this letter of explanation by providing the eligible CIP code. Now, for example, if students graduating from ECE program, you can just say, I have been studying this ECE program with Durham College, and I studied full-time in every semester. I always comply with my study permit conditions, and the program I graduated from has this CIP code, and you write it there. And you can find the CIP code from Durham College International website. Okay. If a student studied a finance program and they applied for their study permit before November the 1st, so they are not, restricted to certain programs, then in your letter of explanation, you can say, Dear IRCC, this is who I am, and I'm eligible for a PGWP because I applied for my study permit on maybe in June 2024. So the field of study requirement doesn't apply to you. I've been studying full time. I've been achieving good grades, those kind of things. You put in there just to help IRCC understand. Now I have a third category of students. They have done 2 programs, maybe both programs with Durham College, maybe one program with another institution. Now, in your letter of explanation, you can even make a table. You can make a table and clearly outline the 2 programs you have completed with who, at what time, the eligible CIP code, and that's why you are eligible for a 3-year work permit. Okay, so even though you didn't do anything wrong or there's no really any issues, I would encourage you to all include a letter of explanation to talk about why you are eligible for the work permit. Let's continue here. So if you're in your final semester, you would already have access to the GISE, Graduating International Student Experience program on DC Connect, and you would find that information in GISE as well. In case you have not come across that information, this is your work eligibility. Now, I'm finishing my last class on campus. Can I still work? Yes. As long as you have a valid study permit, if you have on-campus job or if you have off-campus job, you can work the same hours as you were in the semester. Once your verification of graduation has the status approved, not yet awarded, that's when your graduation is confirmed. That's when you stop being a student. That's when you stop working. Now, I can give you a little bit timeline when you can expect the letter to be available. If you finish your program in August, most likely the letter will be available in early October. And you don't have to check the letter status every day. What we usually do is that once our office received the list of graduating, like these international students, they are graduated, we would email our international students, congratulations, grad, your graduation has confirmed, and then now you can access your graduation letter and you must stop working now. We will remind our students because we know it's important. After you submit your PGWP application, you may work full-time right away. if you meet two conditions. Condition 1, when you apply, you have a valid study permit. Condition 2, when you were a student in Canada, you never did any illegal work. And that could mean you never worked more hours than you should, or you never worked when you shouldn't be working. Okay? If you meet both conditions, you can start working full-time right away, as soon as you apply. Now, maybe within 48 hours of your application, IRCC will send you a work letter. On the work letter, it will say, this candidate can now work full-time in Canada, and that is for employer purpose. If you have an employer and they hire foreign national, they need to be assured that you actually can work in Canada. You can show them this letter from IRCC, okay? Now, let's make an application together. I will stop sharing and I will explain to you what I am doing currently. I'm opening my search engine and I am searching for IRCC secure account. If you're in Canada and you're submitting an application, you will use IRCC secure account. If you previously already have one, you can use the same one. If you don't have one, you can register an account and going forward, use that same account. Now, I already have an IRCC secure account, so I've logged in with my username and a password. And I'm getting a two-factor authentication. So I will open my email and enter it here. Continue. Okay, now I'm at the terms and conditions. I read them and I select I accept. Then there is a security questions which you have set up for yourself. So I'm in my account and I will share my screen again. This is my IRCC secure account, and any previous applications will show up here. Any application you have started but not submitted yet will show up here. Once you start an application, you have up to 60 days to submit it. If you're in your final semester, I would recommend you can actually begin your PGWP application today, because you can then upload the ones you already have. And then once you have everything, click submit, go to work. Okay, so we will click apply to come to Canada, although we are already in Canada. I don't have this reference code. That's fine. I will click on visitor visa, study, or work permit. This is what we call IRCC questionnaire. And now I am a student. I will pretend I'm a student and I will submit the application. I'd like to work for more than 6 months. So my passport, let's say, is issued by China. And my current country of residence is in Canada. Do you have a family member who's a Canadian citizen or PR and is 18 years or older? Now, family member means your spouse, your common law partner, and your children, dependent children. It doesn't mean your parents. It doesn't mean your siblings. It doesn't mean your cousins, those kind of or grandparents. They are not counted here. For our purpose today, I would say no. But if you are a parent and you're applying for PGWP and you also have children studying here in high school or in elementary school, and you want to extend their study permit, you can include them, okay? Date of birth, let's say I'm born in 2000, October 6th. Are you a lawful PR of the USA? Every question you just need to, they're not to trick you. They want your honest answer because that will change what you will see in the end on your document checklist. I have a valid study permit, so I'm a student currently. I'm not planning on working on campus. I'm not planning on working off campus. That is for a student. Have you recently graduated from this institution and you studied full-time? Yes. Is work an essential part of your studies? That is more for the placement, practicum, co-op of your program. So even if it applies to you in the past, when you're applying for PGWP, it's a no. Okay. Have you been told by IRCC you're approved in principle for PR? Answer truthfully. Have you applied for PR? Do you have a written job offer? Now, if you do, say yes. If you don't, say no. All is fine. Do you have an official letter from your school that confirms you've completed your study program as well as a final transcript? So that's why I say you need 2 documents from Durham College. Yes. What is your marital status? For our purpose, I will say single. What is your province or territory of destination? If you plan to stay in Ontario, you can select Ontario. Now, this is the middle point. They will let me know based on your answers so far. You might be continue with TRV application. You might continue with PGWP application. I will continue with the second. There will be a few more questions, and this is a question they've already asked. Have you had a medical exam within last 12 months? No. But if you have, say yes. And then, because I said no, there's a follow-up question. And one of the category is, do you intend to work in one of the following jobs? Now, if you are a graduate from PSW program, or if you plan to work in the pharmacy, nursing home, child care center, then you have to say yes. Okay, so will you be getting a medical exam before you submit your application? Of course. I will book an appointment with a panel physician today, and I'll probably go to my appointment tomorrow. And tomorrow I'll get the document I need. Next. No. But if you plan to include your family member, like your partner, your dependent children, you can always start with your spouse, okay? Or if you don't apply anything for your spouse, and then you can just include your children's information. Are you giving someone access to your application? Now, if you're doing the application yourself, you don't have to give anybody else access, right? So you can say no. This is about biometrics. Answer truthfully. There will be fees. Will you be paying fees? Do you have a camera? Then you can make digital copies. Another question about paying. Okay, so we are done with the questionnaire. This is where you can review your answers to each question. And if you need to change anything, you can click on the little pen and you can always go back to modify your answers. Now, I have reviewed my answers. They are all accurate. I can continue. This is additional information about what kind of documents you can upload, what is the file size, maximum, when you can pay your fees. So I have read the information. I will continue. Now, this is finally the document checklist. As mentioned, this is my main application form, which I will click into it, download a copy to my desktop. This is the final transcript. This is the verification of graduation letter, passport, digital photo, and I will provide my medical exam. Okay, so if you find anything not clear, this is what the question mark is for. And you can click on the question mark. For example, you don't have a digital photo. Then you click on the question mark. You will see the detailed requirement. If you will have a professional take the photo for you, then you can bring them this requirement. Again, for example, I will click on the question mark for the passport. It will say, you need to provide a copy of the page that shows your birth date and country of origin, and any pages with stamps, visas, or markings, so you won't miss anything. All right. This is very important. Although the proof of language proficiency is included under optional documents, you must remember it's a required document. You must provide your proof of language proficiency. I don't know if anybody joining me online today has graduated from a degree program with Durham College. If you graduate from a degree program, it is treated the same as a university degree program, so your language benchmark will be higher, and we can discuss with you individually, okay? But for any other students, CLB 5 is the minimum you need to achieve. Upload it here. Now, once you upload a document successfully, you will see the red will become green, okay? And if you want to remove the previous upload and you want to provide a new one, you can always click here and update your information. This one you can ignore. And client information is where you will provide your letter of explanation. Okay? If you have multiple additional documents you want to provide, then you can combine them together in one PDF and upload it in client information. Once you have uploaded everything required you will be able to see the next button to move on with digital signature and move on with the payment of the work permit fee. Now I will stop sharing again. I want to take this opportunity to walk you guys through the actual application form, IMM 5710. I will answer some key questions how you can navigate the form. So I will describe what I'm doing right now. I have downloaded from my document checklist the form onto my desktop. And you have to open the form with your Adobe. Otherwise, you will see you cannot view the form. Now I have the form open. I will share my screen again. Okay. So this is the application form. I'm applying to remain in Canada as a worker. You will see some questions have a little star. That is a must answer question. Some questions without the stars, if you know the information, provide it. If you don't have it, leave it blank. You will find the UCI on your current study permit. Some questions is a drop-down menu. It's simply you choose one. Some questions you will have to input your own answer. Okay, let's move on to some questions that you might struggle with. Okay, for example, question number 7, current country or territory of residence. When I answer the questionnaire, I already tell IRCC I'm in Canada. That's why it's captured already on the form. And you can select your status from to. If you're in Canada as a student, from can be the day you received your study permit at the border, at the airport. And that is on your study permit itself. To can be the expiry date of your study permit. Now let's take a look at question 8. Previous countries or territories of residence during the past 5 years. Have you lived in any country or territory other than your country of citizenship or your current country of residence for more than 6 months? If yes, say yes. If no, say no. Basically, this question is asking me, in the past 5 years, did you live in a country that's not China, that's not Canada, for more than 6 months? Let's continue. A bit more personal details. You will then, let's say this national identity document. I know for the country where I come from, we do have this national identity document. Not every country provides that, and it's okay to say no if you don't have it. Now, contact information, enter carefully and accurately. This is where once your work permit is approved, it will be mailed to you in your Canadian address. I have students who made a mistake in their mailing address, and then they received the digital approval, but they never actually received the actual permit. That's problematic, okay? Let's say you're submitting your application now, but maybe when IRCC is processing your application, you moved to a new place. What happens now is that you can always use IRCC web form to keep IRCC updated on your new address. Okay, so provide those information now, including if you will provide your cell phone, like choose here, and country code, number, and your email address, provide everything. Okay, coming into Canada. Date and place of your original entry to Canada. For some students, they came to Canada for their program of study and they never left. And that will be the date you came to Canada. So put the date in, and place could be maybe you arrived in Toronto Pearson International Airport. You can put it here. And then the original purpose for coming to Canada. For some other students, they may visit Canada before many years ago. And then you can provide that record here. Like, what's your initial and original purpose of visiting Canada? Just each individual is different. And date and place of your most recent entry, if not the same as the original entry. And that question means if you are a student, you came to Canada for a program and you never left, see, your most recent entry is your original entry. You don't have to provide that information again. However, if your most recent entry is different than your original entry, then provide both. Details of intended work in Canada. I will explain this question. Although we talk about PGWP is an open work permit, and you will see open work permit and a PGWP together. So just choose PGWP because this is most accurate in your situation. Okay. Now we are required to provide education information. Let's read the description. Have you had any post-secondary education? Of course you have. Even if you didn't do any post-secondary education back home, you are now graduating from Durham College, right? So you have to say yes and provide your program information. And maybe if it's Durham College, then you also provide a Durham College information. Employment. Now give details of your employment for the past 10 years. And I know some students, they worked part-time when they studied here. And you can start with the most recent employment record, and you will have 3 entries here. But the first one, the date is a must enter information. But what about those students who never had any work experience? They just came here and they studied and studied. In that case, if it's required, you can put your student information in. You can say my occupation is student, from when to when, and my employer is Durham College. So just to answer this question. Okay, we are almost there. Now you will see there are some background information you need to answer. Yes is yes, no is no. I would envision most would say most would answer no to most questions, but answer truthfully is the point, okay? And here, have you ever been refused a visa or permit, denied entry, or ordered to leave Canada or any other country or territory? So let's say you previously applied for a study permit and you got refused, but you replied again, and then that's how you came here. So if you have any of those record, or even you have a visa refusal with a different country, just say yes and provide a little bit details in the open box. very briefly, because you will see it has a limit on the text count. But when it comes to question C, it will be a yes, because they are asking, have you previously applied to enter or remain in Canada? Of course, yes. You applied for your study permit, right? So you say yes, you will have to provide a little bit information, and you can say, I applied for my study permit, got approved, and came to Canada on which date. Now, after you have gone through these background information, and then you can type your name here, provide the date. Now you have answered every required question to the best of your knowledge. You can click on validate. If I click on the validation button now, it will give me error message because I didn't complete in full. So if you have completed everything beautifully and correctly, once you click on the validate, which you can find on the top or at the bottom of the form, you will see a barcode. You see a barcode? That's great. Save that document to your desktop and upload it to your document checklist. I will stop sharing now. And pretty much that's what I want to share. And before I move on to the question part, I would appreciate the online attendees and also the in-person participants to complete a one question evaluation to help me evaluate how useful this this workshop is. I cannot, hold on. I can share with the online attendees this QR code. And you know what? Let's all use this QR code. If you can take out your phone, it's a one question evaluation, and we'll dive into Q&A in a minute. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let me first stop recording